You know, it's not letting me in. I'm going to go back in and I'll call you back. It's not letting me
Okay.
in this way, so I'll call you. Oh, wait, there it is. Okay, we're there. We're in. Make sure. Not on this call. Okay, so I'm going to do it that way, Mark. I'm going to call you right back. Okay?
Right.
Okay. Hi, everybody. We're getting ready to go live now on wherever I'm going to. Here we go. Okay. I love doing what I do. We're gonna go on Revolution Radio. Yes, we're on. So let me add them to the call. Let's call them.
Is a conduit to the powers that be to answer your questions about your future self, past lives, current career, love. She shines light into the darkness to illuminate what was, what may be, and beyond. The readings and advice given by Barbara Jean Lindsey are for entertainment purposes only. Should not take the medical, legal, or financial advice given to you by a qualified professional and are not a substitute for medical, legal, or financial advice. If you need a doctor, call a doctor. If you need to be expanded, call the cosmic.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Cosmic Oracle Show. This is your host, Barbara Jean Lindsey, and we're coming to you live tonight from Salem, Oregon. Yep, I'm out of LA. Took a 438-mile trek in a 15-foot truck. I drove it myself to Sacramento and had a connection there. And now I'm officially on a road trip to where are we going? Yes, we're going to the Serpent Mound for the World Peace Summit at the Serpent Mound, put on by Terry Rivera and her husband, Mr. Johnson, Tom Johnson, I think it is. And I'm really looking forward to being a part of that and uh, just bringing peace to the world in the way that we all can. And a part of that is if you want to comment, um, you can connect with me on Facebook and leave. My question to everyone is if you could speak at the Peace Summit and speak your piece about the Peace Summit, what would you want to say to the world? And so I've been asking people along the road trip, along the journey to get there. I've had some interesting answers, and I'll be talking about those on next week's show on the 19th. I've had all sorts of different kinds of people give me amazing answers, and altogether they're really a beautiful weave of how to have peace on this planet. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited to be a member, a part of that. And it's my first time going to the Serpent Mound. So I'm really excited about that as well in Ohio. And uh, so all of those of you on Facebook, all my friends on Facebook, and all of you that's watched us the whole time, I do want to say thank you for all of your love and support for keeping Cosmic Oracle Show on the air. This is our 5th year, and I've been doing this for 5 years every Friday night. First it was Tuesday nights. I even did the show in France for a year, and so now we're back on a road trip, and you're coming with me. Okay, so you'll be with me at the Serpent Mound next Friday. And for the summer, I'm planning on traveling all over the United States and seeing where Spirit takes me. I put everything in storage and I have a suitcase and a cell phone and a computer, and we'll see where Spirit wants to take us. So I did want to thank you for giving generously to the Cosmic Oracle Show and to Revolution Radio. We're an all volunteer station. No one gets paid for anything here. And to keep us on the air, just go to freedomslips.com. That's freedomslips.com and give a donation, $1, $5, $10, whatever you can to keep the lights on and things happening. So thank you in advance for your generous donation. And for all of those tuning in, I'm really excited. Hello, everyone on Facebook. Hello, Catherine. Hello. We have with us this evening, we have a wonderful author. We have Mark Amaru Pinkham. I hope I'm saying that right. Mark Amaru Pinkham. He's an author, a mystic, and a futurist. Is the author of 8 books. He's been in a research into the ancient mysteries for over 40 years. He's traveled the world to India. He takes tours. He leads tours together with his beautiful wife, and they take people to have experiences in Egypt and India, and I believe Peru. He'll be talking about that. He's also the founder and visionary of the Seven Ray Order and the Order of the Seven Rays, I'm sorry, and the Path of the Dragon. So he will be talking about his 2 mystery schools he's founded, his 8 books he's authored, and his amazing life experiences. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Hello, Barbara. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure, my pleasure. I'm stoked to have you here. I have so many questions for you. So let's start with one of the things we do here on the show is it's a place where people can talk about their extraordinary experiences. And before the show today, you were talking about the one that rocked your world was one that also rocked my world was in Boynton Canyon in Sedona. Can you tell us that story and describe or begin that story at Boynton Canyon and let's talk story here, Mark.
Okay, this was back in 1987, and some of you older folks might know that that was the year of the harmonic convergence. So there was a lot of special energy on the planet that year. And at one point during that year, I went through a major belief crisis, which really was not unusual for me at those times. But anyway, this one, I really needed some answers. And I was living in Washington State at the time, and I decided I needed to leave there and go out and find my fortune, go out and find those answers. And so I hit the road, and I left my wife, my home, my car, and my dog, and I hit the road and took buses and hitchhiked. And after a while, my journey took me to Sedona, Arizona, which I'd never been to before, but I'd certainly heard a lot about it, as we all had in the 80s. This was the place to be in terms of vortex energy. And so when I got there, I went into one of these New Age shops, looked around, and went up to the person running the store, and I says, "Hey, look, I'm one of these green people. I have no idea what I'm doing here and what I'm supposed to be doing here. So can you set me in the right direction?" And so he took out this map, and it had the 4 major vortexes. And he did something that they normally don't do in these stores. They usually say, well, just follow your intuition. You'll know exactly where you need to be. Well, in this case, he took his finger and he pointed right at one of the vortexes. And he says, "This is where you need to go." And I mean, could argue with him. So, okay, great. So the next day I got up and I walked into one of the vortexes called Boynton Canyon. And Boynton Canyon is the largest of the 4 vortexes. And so I got it. As soon as I hit the trailhead, I started walking, and I figured this is going to be a long hike. I have no idea where I'm going here, and the trail is about 2 to 3 miles long. So I'm just going to keep walking and see what happens. And so I did, and walked and walked and walked, and finally I looked to the side, to the left of me, on the side of the canyon, and there was this kind of ledge that stuck out. And immediately, voice inside me says, hey, you know what? That's where you need to go. And I would have loved to have argued with him. It wouldn't have done me much good because I knew I was going to have to trailblaze the whole way to get up there. But I got up there and I sat down and I started doing this prayer, give me something to believe in again, which has become my prayer. And then the voice spoke up again. It said, look in front of you. So I opened my eyes, and right across the canyon from me were these, what looked like two gigantic pillars. And they looked like they'd been made by human hands, and that they weren't even that old. Mm-hmm. And so then I started looking around the canyon, and I realized that's why I was led to that ledge, because I had a bird's eye view. And I'd had the foresight that day to bring some binoculars, so I could see everything in the canyon floor. And wherever I looked, I saw temples, perfect temples. Mm-hmm. You know, not rock formations that you look at and say, well, that could be a temple or not. These are temples you look at and say, that's a temple. And they were carved out of the native red rock. Some had symbols, some had were painted a bit. And between the temples, there were actual statues, perfect statues. And in another part of the canyon, I looked, and it looked like a saucer, an extraterrestrial saucer there, perfectly round, and it had golden disc on all four sides. And then I looked to the side of the canyon. There was this big, there's a very big symbol, it looked like, jutting from the side of the canyon, perfectly carved out, and it looked like a head on top of a head. And my voice said, well, that's a symbol of a colony of Mu, or a colony of Lemuria, and that was that huge continent that once stretched across the Pacific. And that was the continent where a lot of ET masters came from other parts of the universe in order to teach early humanity. And I had studied enough about Lemuria to know that that was a long time ago. And so I feel, well, what I'm seeing then is pretty darn old. But eventually I wanted to get inside one of these things, one of these temples. So I climbed down from my perch. And so I'm walking around in the floor of the canyon, and I would see one of these temples maybe 100 yards away from me. And it was perfect when I would initially see it. But the closer I got to it, the less perfect it looked. And by the time I got right up to it, about half of it was worn away. And this kept happening. I'd see these perfect temples. By the time I get to them, you know, they were worn away. Half of them was gone. So what I realized is that I had seen that canyon when those temples were in their perfect state, which I didn't know when that was, but chances are it was many, many thousand years ago. And pretty soon I did some research. Actually, over the years following that time, I did a lot of research. But at one point, I found out that Sedona had been actually covered with water at least 5 different times, completely covered. And so what I was seeing was those perfect temples. I was seeing them after they'd been covered 5 times with water. So that obviously they're going to look a lot different. And so I was blown away. And there was really nobody that I knew. I mean, I didn't know anybody in Sedona as it was, but even now, today, there's nobody I could really go and talk to about who made those temples. But when I left Boynton Canyon that day, I really vowed to keep coming back there until I got some kind of understanding about who built these temples, why they built these temples, when they built these temples. And it took me many years of study before I could really come to what I consider to be some really hard conclusions about that. And in the meantime, I must have gone to Boynton Canyon 1,000 times. Not that that's a bad thing, as you know. I know you've had some experiences there, and the energy is just amazing.
It is.
But my whole odyssey and what I learned, and actually what I learned about Sedona and Boynton Canyon, some of that came from traveling in other parts of the world. There was this being that kept kind of showing up wherever I would go, which has many names to them, but one of the most popular ones is Sanat Kumara. And as it turns out, part of Boynton Canyon, which I discovered later on, was which is his court. I mean, it's still very live on another dimension. But he kept showing up, in India, Sri Lanka. He was always kind of there, always kind of waiting until I was ready to get the whole scoop. And then finally, years later, when I did discover his court, at the same time, I was told the Hopi legend, that the Hopis were Lemurians, and when they landed in North America, they met this being called Masao, and he introduced himself as the Lord King of the world. Nice to meet you, I'm King of the world. And then he divided the Hopis up into clans, and he set them off on migrations throughout the Western Hemisphere. And he told them they needed to go as far south as they could, north and east and west. And when you're done with all that, come on back and we'll have a chat. Well, they started rolling back in about 3,000 years later. Remember, they're walking the whole way. That's a long journey. And when the different clans got together, they started talking. Well, what you been up to? Where you been? And invariably, every clan had been to this place called Palakwapi, which means the Red House. And the Red House was a place that the extraterrestrials, what they call the Kachinas, had built and lived in. And while each clan was living in Palakwapi, they were taught the mysteries of the universe and the mysteries of human evolution. And in fact, some of them went through initiations. They talked about what we today call the Kundalini and the Kundalini path. Mm-hmm. And some of the rituals that were taught to the Hopi clan by the Kachinas, they're still observing today up there on Hopi land. Some of the dances that they do, the Kachina dances, were taught when they were visiting Palakwapi. And so anyway, when I heard this legend, there was like no question in my mind, this is it. I mean, this is Palakwapi. This is what I've been seeing. These are temples that were built by the extraterrestrials. And you know what happened soon after that is people, as soon as I started announcing my discovery, people were coming forward saying, well, we've been seeing stuff like that a long time ourselves, and we didn't know what it was. And now that you've said that, now we know that's what we also saw.
Validation.
And so it wasn't really a long time after that I wrote the book, Sedona City of the Star People.
Yay! Oh wait, let me show our viewers this. It's called Sedona City of the Star People, Court of the King of the World. So it's just a beautiful book. I've just taken my time to read it because I want to really enjoy it. But this is why I had you on the show. I had to have this book and the City of the Star People and recounting the 27-year journey, right? That's what we're talking about. Your 27 years. Did you ever think it would take you 27 years that first day, right?
Well, I didn't think that I thought that it might take even longer. I thought it might take lifetimes, but I was willing to take as long as it took because I wanted to know. I wanted to know. And so when I finally saw this Court of the King, this was only about maybe 10, 12 years ago that I was in Boynton Canyon one day and I saw this trail off to my right. And I says to myself, well, that's interesting. I'd probably walked by that trail 1,000 times and never even noticed it. And so I guess today is the day I am supposed to take it. So I walked up there and it takes me along this ridge or this ledge that actually hugs the side of the canyon. And I kept walking, and finally it takes me to this place where I can look out, and in front of me there is what appears to be a horseshoe design of temples, all lined up in kind of a half circle or a horseshoe shape. And right in the center, it looked like something that looked like a gigantic throne. And immediately, and as soon as I saw that, I said to myself, well, this is court of the king. And ever since that time, that's what I've been calling it. And so I didn't know, who was the king. I just knew it was the court of the king. And, it's also the kind of intuitive voice telling me, yeah, you're right, it's the court of the king. But eventually I was to find out that that Masao, the lord of the world and the patron of the Hopis, the one that divided the Hopis up into clans, he lived in Palakpa. Because he was kind of the top dog. He was the head of all the extraterrestrials. And this was his court. Well, when I heard that, I started studying the life of the legend of Masao. And invariably, it's in many places, it's almost exactly the same as the legend of Sanat Kumara. And then that sent me on this journey around the world where I was studying all kinds of legends. Wherever I went, I was studying the legends of masters, AT masters that had come to those countries. And they had brought the teachings of alchemy and the teachings of gnosis. And they were known as the saviors, and they became the priest kings, the original priest kings of these countries. And what I found out sooner or later is all these legends are the same. They're talking about this same being all around the planet. And their legends are the same as Sanat Kumara and Masao. So I realized at that point that this is not just the court of Masao or Sanat Kumara, it's the universal court of this being, this extraterrestrial that came, and it appears now through my studies, it was like 6 million years ago, and it appears that it definitely came from the Pleiades. Because in Sri Lanka, which is one place that I visited as I was traveling around the world, they talk about this being, and they say that his name is Kartikeya. And he came from Kritika, which is the Pleiades. And Kartikeya means son of the Pleiades. And according to them, he came from the Pleiades with the wisdom, the Gnostic alchemical path to enlighten the world. You might say he is the son of the goddess in the Gnostic tradition, Sophia, who sent her son down here in order to reveal to all humans their divinity, because her other son, this oppressive, dictatorial Luluboa, wasn't going to tell us how incredible we were, that God exists within us as us. And so she sent her other son down there to reveal the truth to us. And this is this Sanat Kumara. This is this Masao. And he's also known around the world as the Peacock Angel, Osiris, Dionysus, Al-Qadir, Quetzalcoatl, Viracocha. He's almost in every single tradition, which is a great, all the ancient great civilizations, and almost all of them, they talk about it. They're like I tell you, their legends are all the same.
Is that like an Enki Enlil, like that sort of or is that different?
Exactly? He's Enki.
He's Enki. Yeah. Wow. So how did you feel like when you first put all that together?
Well, it all made sense, and every time I go into Blunt Canyon, I go to the court of the king, and you can see it on many different levels. It's interdimensional.
Mm-hmm.
And when you open up to higher levels, then you can really see it all. And when you open up to higher levels, your intuition also kicks in when you reach those levels, and you know that you are you are you were looking out at the court of the ancient king of the world. You just know it, and this looks unbelievable. It really does.
And that would be.
And so I really believe that in time that the world is going to become aware of that this ancient king of the world that they talk about in all these different traditions, it's not just a myth. It's
The real
real
thing.
truth.
Mm-hmm.
This being really did exist.
And he still exists today.
Oh, he does, yes. And I felt intuitively that one reason I've been directed to Point Canyon and the Court of the King is because, well, as we become more interdimensional ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
we are going to have an opportunity to look into those higher dimensions. And when we do that, then we are going to have the experience of this king of the world, because that's where he exists. He exists on a dimension that's a little bit higher in frequency than our own.
Oh yeah.
And I have visited that dimension.
Yeah.
Would you like me to talk about that?
Yeah, I would. It reminds me like a near-death experience where when you're in that experience in the afterlife, the frequency is much higher and much lighter. And
It's a bit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a shamanic journey, which is how I first experienced it.
Right. Oh yeah. I'd love that. Let's share that.
This was down in Peru where I'd been apprenticing a shaman down there for about 3 years, and he used a liquid or a drink made out of a cactus we call it, their name for it is Wachuma, we call it San Pedro. But every time we did a shamanic journey, we would take some of that liquid and it would transport us into a different realm.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this particular day, we were up about 13,000 feet, and so we did some of this Wachuma, and this day was completely different from many others. I went in immediately. I went into this dimension where I looked around me. I was surrounded by hundreds and thousands of eyes, and one way of describing it is it looked like every life form around me had kind of opened its eyes at the same time. And so I was looking at all these eyes, trying to figure out what the heck is this? Am I looking at one being with a million eyes, or am I looking at a million beings?
Mm.
It's pretty intimidating either way you look at it.
Yes.
But anyway, I'm looking at these eyes, and I say, well, okay, well, there's something a little bit different about them. They aren't normal human eyes.
Mm.
And then it hits me. Okay, these are the eyes you see, quote unquote, under a peacock. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm looking at the eyes more closely, and lo and behold, they're on peacock feathers. And then I keep looking at the peacock feathers, and they all come together as these peacocks. And there's like hundreds of peacocks running around, and virtually everything around me turns into peacocks. Even the mountains. There was huge mountains, snow-capped mountains around us. They were all gigantic peacocks. Everything was a peacock. So I was in the land of the peacock. That's all I knew. But I knew I was there. I knew that much. And so there I was. My teacher had never been there. He couldn't really tell me anything. So the one thing I related to is I had been involved with the Shaivite path of India for some time, and in that path you venerate Shiva's son, who's Sanat Kumarao. I've already mentioned him, and one of his forms is this young boy that rides on a peacock. So I figured, well, maybe this has something to do with him. But still, I had no idea. I really did not know. So when I went back to the States after having this experience, I was surfing the internet, trying to get some idea. Maybe I'd come across some website or somebody who knows something about what I'd experienced. And I searched and searched, found nothing until I came across the Djedhis. And the Djedhis are these people in northern Iraq that have been decimated by ISIS, this fanatical Muslim terrorist organization. Many of them have been murdered. But in their tradition, they talk about this being called the Peacock Angel. And he's their main deity. And so I looked up these Djedhis, And I got in touch with them. They have a community here in Lincoln, Nebraska. So I went up there, and I was hanging out with a fakir. He's kind of like, you might say, a priest of the Peacock Angel. And so I said, here's my story, and can you tell me anything? Can you help me understand it? And so I told him, and then he says, well, okay, well, I have a story to tell you. In our tradition, millions of years ago, when the earth was still kind of lifeless and barren, the greatest of the angels were sent to the earth to give it life, to give it color. And this was the Peacock Angel. He arrived as this magnificent, gigantic peacock with all the 7 colors. And he landed in Lalish, which is their most holy place today in northern Iraq. But then he spread his feathers all over the planet, and they were etheric feathers. And when they crystallized and became physical, they became all the forms of nature. Now, this is interesting for many reasons, but one of which is that, according to Earth science, it was about 6 to 7 million years ago that all of a sudden the Earth was covered with grass and flowers. All of a sudden, it took on all these colors, and so that's approximately the time he was supposed to have arrived. And so my Djedhi teacher, he says, well, I think that you experience his realm because it's still there. You see, that realm, all those etheric peacock feathers are still there, and that's where I went. And today, even, I can go out in nature, walking around, and all of a sudden I'll be surrounded by peacock feathers. All the greenery just turns into peacock feathers. It's the craziest thing, and yeah.
I love it.
And of course, if anyone's with me, they of course think I'm crazy, and I usually agree with them, because no one else is saying it, but it's there, it's. And so the fakir says to me, well, the Peacock Angel has revealed itself to me, and it happens very, very infrequently, and hardly anybody other than fakirs have ever seen or know anything about Peacock Angel. And so over the years since that time, the Peacock Angel has appeared to me many times and taught me many things about himself, and it's because of that that I feel it's my duty to help these people any way I can, because I feel like I understand the Peacock Angel better than anybody that's not a Djedhi.
Right.
And it's my duty to kind of educate the world as to what the Peacock Angel is about, because one of the main reasons that the Djedhis have been ruthlessly persecuted and murdered by these fanatical Muslims is because the Muslims believe the Peacock Angel is Satan. So they feel justified in killing all these Djedhis they can. And they've killed about 20 million over the years. There's only less than 1 million left. So I feel like one reason that this Peacock Angel has appeared to me is so that I would help these people now. And many times I've gone to the court of the king since that time, and and everything around the court and into the temples were peacock images. I mean, it was all peacock. So I knew that this is the court of the Peacock Angel. In fact, I've actually taken Djedhi people there, and they consider it to be one of their holy places on the planet.
Wow.
But one thing I've done is I've been able to bring together the Hindus who worship Sanat Kamara and the Djedhis, who worship the Peacock Angel, bring them together and say, look, you're worshiping the same deity. In fact, some of their ritual objects they have in India are identical to the ones that the Djedhis have. Certain lamps, for example, ritual lamps that they have, they're identical. And a lot of the legend about Sanat Kamara is identical to the Peacock Angel. So I brought them together, and that's helped the Djedhis a lot. It certainly helped them a lot when they were initially attacked by ISIS because a lot of Hindus came to their aid at that time, helped them out. And so this is how I'm working slowly but surely, is to help these people by, well, number one, showing that their peacock angel is known about all over the world as this great priest king, and it's certainly not Satan. This is a great priest king. And I'm helping them also by showing that these Djedhis were definitely tied in with the Hindus and some other traditions in ancient times, and so these are their brothers and sisters, and so for that reason they can get a lot of assistance and help in their predicament. Most of them are living in refugee camps right now. They don't have any towns or homes or even family. So and also one interesting thing is one of the main members of the royal family, he lives in Phoenix, Arizona, and I brought him up, to Sedona, and we talked, and eventually he and I want to come together and make international or universal temples, where you've got the image of Tausi Malek, the peacock angel. That's one of the images in the temple, but the other images are what he is in all these other traditions around the world. Because he knew, he had heard growing up that back in the time of the Garden of Eden, the peacock angel was there, and the peacock angel taught what they call the 72 tribes that were going to populate the planet during the cycle we're in now. And so he did, and then he set them out, and he says, well, you go to your appointed destinations, which they did. And once they got there, they continued to observe the rites that were taught to them by the peacock angel. But over time, the name of the peacock angel and the form of the peacock angel changed. Even though his legend was the same, it changed. And so this is why he has different names in all these different traditions around the world.
So they acclimated with wherever they landed in that particular geography.
Exactly right. Yeah. Well, and so my friend in Phoenix, he says, I grew up knowing that, but I didn't know who these beings were, or what his other names were in all these other traditions. And so you solved that for us, us Djedhis, and we wish you a load of thanks for that. And so a lot of my book is about realizing that truth and being able to put these pieces of the puzzle together so I could understand that.
It's a life work, that's for sure, to put that much time and energy into something and to be guided to do it as well. And that takes a lot of focus. I really commend you on your effort and your work to put these groups together, and that they came from the king, the court of the king. Is that a part of that, or the major, what would you call the major focal point of where they actually went out? Did I get that right? That they actually started there as the landing space, and then went out from there, or?
Well, it looked like there were waves of colonists that arrived in Sedona in ancient times, and some of these ETs came from Lemuria itself, and then colonized Sedona. But I think that also there were some landing bases, landing pads, possibly right here in Sedona or in other places in Arizona. But they were familiar with Sedona because of the extremely strong energy field that it creates around itself.
Right, the ley lines, and you talk about that in your book.
They could pick up that, and so they knew that. But also, any vortex, it's easier for the ETs to transition from higher dimensions into this physical dimension through these portals, these vortex portals. And so this is one reason they would come right here. here because of the huge portal that Sedona creates. But you see, there's a little bit more to that story too that I should share.
Yeah, I would love that.
And that is that when the Peacock Angel wrapped his plumes, his feathers around the planet, at that point he essentially made it his physical body. And at the same time, he transmitted his own spirit into our planet. And then he became what's known as the planetary logos, which means the mind and the will of the planet Earth. So essentially, it's his will that's behind virtually everything that happens on the surface of the planet, including what we do and what happens to us, virtually everything. He is the spirit of this Earth and the planetary logos. So this is one reason I call him the king of the world, because it's his will, that's behind everything that happens. Well, once he made the planet, once it became his physical body, his seven chakras of this Peacock Angel became the seven chakras of the earth. And this is something that I expand upon in the book. And the root chakra is Sedona, Arizona. It's right here in the court of the king. And if you study Sedona, it fits perfectly fits the criteria of a root chakra. It's red every place, obviously.
That's true.
But it has this incredible Kundalini-like energy, and Kundalini, of course, exists in the root chakra. And then if you follow through the middle of the earth, follow the spine of the earth through the middle of the earth, and take you to the other side of the earth, which is the crown chakra, which is Mount Kailash. And so these are the two opposite ends of the Earth's spine, which is the spine of this Peacock Angel. And one reason that I know that is also true is that when the Hopis settled where they're living now, Masao, the king of the world, said to them, he says, every tribe has a certain duty that they need to uphold. Your duty is going to keep this world in balance. And as anyone can tell you, that's a big job. And immediately, two of the Hopis went to the North and South Poles, so they balanced it that way. And then Masao and another Hopi called the white brother Bahana. He went to the other side of the world to balance the east-west act, which is the spine of the earth. Right? And Masao is synonymous with the Hopi people. And Bahana, the white brother, he's synonymous with the Tibetan people. And he's associated with Mount Kailash, and then Masao is associated with the Hopi reservation down to Sedona. In fact, so this whole area from Sedona up into the Hopi reservation is all of root chakra. Well, once a year, the snake clan, which they know about root chakra, they know about Kundalini, and they do this dance. They do this Katina dance. And so they're dancing around a circle, and at some point, the leader of the dance, he stops, and he goes to the center of the circle, and there's a square piece of plywood there. And that represents the door to the root chakra, or what we would call the door to the Sushumna in our own body, the central meridian that Kundalini rises up. And he taps it, he bangs his foot on it 3 times in order to wake up the Kundalini. And then the Kundalini, they say, at that point, then the awakened Kundalini then rises up to the spine of the earth. And where does it go? It goes to Tibet. And it goes, and it arrives there with a message to Bahana saying, we just wanted to check in to see if things okay, and we know that you're going to be coming back here soon, and so we just wanted to, reconnect, and they do that once a year.
Oh, I love
And so
that.
the Hopi seem to know that this is true, that this is the root chakra, that's the crown chakra, and uniting the two is the spine of the earth.
Wow. That's a beautiful, beautiful sacred geometry, sacredness to that it's that all this exists without us knowing that we're being taken care of in so many ways that we don't even know, right? But
Yeah, exactly. And so there are places on the earth. One reason I think that the extraterrestrial space, the star people, the Venus, were here too, is because Sedona, and I think also Mount Kailash, these are places that have ley lines, energy lines that connect to all points of the universe.
mm-hmm.
And I have felt it somewhat in Boyne Canyon, but the place I felt it more than that was in Hopi Reservation.
Oh.
So as I said, the root chakra is all the way from Hopi all the way down here.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I'm up in the second mesa on Hopi Reservation, and I'm looking out at the desert, and all of a sudden I had this feeling like, this is crazy. I feel like I'm in the center of the earth. I'm center of the universe.
Uh-huh.
I mean, not just the earth, but the center of the universe. And it's the strangest feeling. It feels like all the stars and everything, they are like
lined up.
People in a gigantic audience,
Mm-hmm.
and that are looking at an actor on stage, and they're all looking right at me. It's all the stars and everything, the energy is emanating right towards me, right onto me. The strangest thing, I've never had anything remotely like it since, but the interesting is, that's what the Hopis say. They call their place the center of the universe. They call preservation the center of the universe. And they're right.
And you had the experience of that.
And I had the direct experience of it.
Yeah. Experience is the best way to teach, right? Just give someone an experience. You can't unthink that.
I mean, words are pretty hollow unless there's an experience that backs them up.
I love it. And we're going to almost ready for break in just a few minutes. And so from this point, let's talk just briefly before we go on about, was this part of your inspiration for your work with the Order of the Seven Rays? Can we begin opening that door that you have to offer us this evening?
Well, a part of me connecting to this ancient king, of course, has been to connect with this being, Sanat Kumara. And one of the legends is that when he came to this planet, he brought what I call the Gnostic alchemical path. That's the path that use alchemy, all the different kinds of alchemy, to open up the higher psychic channels of gnosis, and ultimately take you to that place of God realization. Well, I am God existing in a human body. This is why he came, was to enlighten us to our divine nature. And so when he arrived here, this was a time of Lemuria, and in order to teach this wisdom and disseminate it and eventually take it around the planet, he founded the Order of the Seven Rays. So it's extremely, extremely ancient order. Now, you might know it under the name of the Great White Brotherhood.
Oh, yeah.
Because about 200 or 300 years ago, they started calling it that. But before that, it was the Order of the Seven Rays.
Huh. See, we need this information, so it's good.
And so, I met a woman. Her name was Sister Phaedra. I don't know if that name means anything to you. She lived in Mount Shasta. Anyway, when she was 50 years old, her body was riddled with cancer, and she would call to Jesus every day. She says, heal me now, and I will always be in your service the rest of my life. Or don't take me. Take me to your world. Let me leave this plane, but do something. This is miserable. So one day she's saying her prayer, and he shows up physically, and he walks over and puts his hands on her. Instantaneous healing. She was in her 50s. She lived to 92.
Wow.
And then he says, well, you need some training now, so we're going to send you down to this monastery in Peru called the Monastery of the Seven Rays, and this is where the teachings of the Order of the Seven Rays went to from Peru. It went to other places in the Pan-Pacific area, but it also went definitely to Peru via a man named Arumumudu, or Amaru Mudu, and that's how you pronounce my middle name, by the way.
Oh, I said it wrong, I think. Wait, say it again, please.
Accent on the Mar.
Okay.
Amaru.
Amaru.
Everyone pronounces it wrong. Don't worry about it. And so once I heard this from Sister Peter, I said, I want to go down, because I felt like I needed to connect with the Order of the Seven Rays. And it took me a long time before I could get to Peru, and by that time she was gone. She died. But at some point, I went with an expedition into the Andes to find the monastery. And we were deep in the Andes, and we kept coming across these villages that we would ask people, I said, you know anything about Sister Peter, or you know anything about the Monastery of Seven Rays? And they really didn't seem to know much about it, except one village we came to, and they said, well, we've heard about this monastery, and we think it moves between the dimensions. But if it's anywhere, it's going to be where there's this huge mountain that looks like a man with his arms outstretched. But 2 or 3 days later, we're walking on a ridge. I look over, and there's a mountain that's like a man with his arms outstretched. I says, bingo, this is the place. And where his heart would be, on a human, energy was flooding this canyon, and it was hitting us, and it was all, and we were all having these massive heart activations.
Wow.
And then after that occurred, we'd known that we'd gone through initiation. In fact, we all received it intuitively. We didn't need to go any further, because that's the initiation we would have gotten at the Monastery of Seven Rays. And I think we were all pretty relieved, actually. It's not an easy journey,
Right.
And so we left. But so I feel like that was really my initiation, and things have opened up more and more, and I've been able to understand the teachings of the Order of the Seven Rays, and how it's coming back, and how those teachings are coming back, and how also that these teachings were taught here in Sedona, and so since that time I've been getting a lot of intuitive teachings on many different levels, and one instruction I received was it's time to revive the order, which is what I've done, the Order of the Seven Rays. So we're teaching these very, very ancient Lemurian teachings that were brought here from this extraterrestrial Sedona, and his court is right here in Sedona. So these teachings were definitely taught here in ancient times.
And so you'll be starting those soon, or the best way to connect with you if they're interested in taking your classes or feel like they're triggered?
We want people, if they feel drawn to it, to become members of the Order of Seven Rays, which is a very unique opportunity. And you can do that if you go onto the website, sevenrayorder.com, and you'll find out right at the home page there. There's a link that you click on that takes you to a page that tells you all about how you can become a member of the Order of the Seven Rays. And all my, all the other things that you'll find there in that home page, in one way or another, relate to these teachings of the Order of the Seven Rays, these teachings of the Gnostic alchemical path that came here with Sanat Kumara. So in one way or another, they're all interconnected. And so you can become a member, and then we have a lot of different classes and all kinds of stuff that you can get involved in to keep expanding and opening yourself up. And there are a lot of classes related to alchemy, to different alchemical techniques that you can do to activate that Kundalini. So pretty much everything is one way or another related to that activation of that Kundalini, because that's your evolutionary force. When that's activated, then you are on your path to God. And the same with the Great White Brotherhood. This is why the Great White Brotherhood existed, was to teach those teachings, but also to guard those teachings. And that's same with the Order of Seven Rays, because if those teachings get in the wrong hands, someone will get a Kundalini activation and they'll have all this power and they're going to use it in the wrong way.
And now's the time that do they have to go through a questionnaire or go through you? You'll give them.
It's very to become a member. They can do that wherever they are. In fact, if they're ready to become a member, they can. We will send them a couple videos, and in fact, in the second video, you're taken through step by step through an initiation.
Oh, I love
and so
that.
we have people that have gone through that all over the planet, and so when you go through the initiation, you align yourself with the Order of Seven Rays, with the Sanat Kumbhara, with the Masters of the Seven Rays, the Ascended Masters. So you have a pretty big family at that point.
Yeah, I love that.
And also, we definitely encourage people to come here as well, because this is like the court of Sanat Kumbhara. I call it the imperial city. This is the city of the court of the king. This is the place.
Wow.
So definitely encourage people to come here too, because if the Kundalini activation hadn't already happened, it could definitely happen here, because this was a place of initiation, for sure. And if it has already been awakened, then it'll awaken a higher level of it, a higher level of activity that come here.
Well, thank you for that, and we'll be right back. We're going to take a station break. We'll be back at 6:04, where we continue our interview with Mark Amaru Pinkham. Thank you. We'll see you right back. Don't go anywhere. Thanks for tuning in today.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Oscar's freeze. That's your cerebral cortex looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you screwed.
That is filled with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. The heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system keeps telling it to run. Your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting endangered. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution. Radio.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslip.com, the People Station.
It is no secret that the so-called mainstream media is best described as controlled propaganda. Countless news stories are either totally ignored or spun with half-truths, and because of this, essential facts and vital information are often compromised. Join Dr. Ott every Friday night on Studio B at 10 p.m. Eastern and learn why The Story Behind the Story was nominated for a Peabody Award in its second year of producing unparalleled broadcasting excellence in 1997. That is, if you really care about learning the truth.
All right. Thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
This is your host, Barbara Jean Lindsey, and we are muted. There we go. This is your host, Barbara Jean Lindsey, and welcome back to the Cosmic Oracle Show. We are just moving and a grooving here on Friday, enjoying Salem, Oregon, and being on the road trip, the summer road trip. So, all of you that have tuned in this evening and are live on Facebook, thank you for tuning in today. Hello to Pinky, good to see you. Hello to Wyatt. Hello to all of you tuning in for today's show. And thank you again for giving generously to keeping Revolution Radio on the air. We are a nonprofit organization, not a nonprofit. We are an all volunteer, not for profit, just to kind of keep things going. So we depend on you to keep everything going here by giving your contributions as much as you can. $1, $10, $100, whatever works for you. You can just go to freedomslips.com. That's freedomslips.com and hit that donate button and give whatever you can. We really appreciate it for keeping us on the air and for doing our good work here by being an all volunteer station and not taking any money from the big guys. We get to talk about whatever we want here, how controversial, how out there, how what we think is important. And so for tonight's show, I've been really excited about this. And I know that you're loving what he's been saying. It's amazing work, isn't it? It's an amazing life's work that Mark Amaru Pinkham has been sharing with us today. I've been kind of focusing more on his book, Sedona, City of the Star People, because that's the book that called the most to me. But also, he has other books. There's Return of the Serpents of Wisdom, Guardians of the Holy Grail, World Gnosis, and the Truth Behind the Christ Myth. So, oh, hi, Sonia, too. Way back from LA. Hello. And so he's just an interesting man who's studied his life works on the ancient mysteries of Sedona, the Star People, and the ancient king of the world. And he'll be joining us here shortly. And I think I still have him there. Yeah, there he is. And we're going to be talking our next part. If you want to ask questions for Mark, just go ahead and ask in the chat box here on the left, and we'll see that he gets those questions from you so that he could answer them. I know that he would love to do that. Okay, so without further ado, welcome back, Mark Amaru. Amaru. Let's hear it. Is that right? Amaru. Amaru Pinkham. So welcome back to the show. And I was listening, I was reading something about the Serpent Mound, and there was an archaeologist there had done a lot of work, and his last name coincidentally was Pinkham. So I wondered if that's any relation to you at all. Oh, I have
Maybe.
you.
I don't know. I never met the guy.
Oh, you didn't.
But maybe somewhere we have a full ancestor.
Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? Small world. It is a small world. So we'll come to the second part. Uh, we can take it to, there's so many different places we could go. Um, and I think it would be where you're stimulating a lot of our listeners to make a trek to Sedona for sure. And if they could sit in that meditation, what would be the best way that you would say for people who are interested in having a multidimensional experience of what you're talking about, of having, this old world kingdom or a different dimension of what's happening in that moment that they're there. What's the best way for them to do that? I know to take your school and be initiated, but if they also were going to just trek to Sedona like you did, I'm sure you inspired many of our listeners, and go and just sit in meditation and wait. Is that what would you tell them to do from your 40 years experience, if they wanted a connection to all that was, all that is, and all that will be?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, Barbara, because I made a DVD for people just like those you just described. People that would come to Sedona looking for those kind of mystical, magical experiences Sedona is famous for. And it's called the Sedona Vortex Video.
Oh.
And even though most people are familiar with the four major vortexes, I actually feature 9 different vortexes
Wow.
on the video. And in the in the video, I give the history, the geological history, the Native American history, and the one that everyone likes is the esoteric history. All those histories are contained on the DVD, and then I give directions on how to get to these different vortexes and what to do once you get there in order to use that energy in these vortexes in such a way so that you can have those kind of mystical.
I love that. And do they go to the 7 rays then, to that particular? Is that where they would find it? The 7 rays, um, 7rayorder.com.
The 7 Ray Order website. You can order that. Yeah.
I want to do that. I'm going to do that right after the show myself.
Sorry?
But I'm going to put it in our chat here on Facebook. So later, if you're listening to this for the first time after the show, you can look down into the live chat and you'll see where to go to Mark's website and order that CD. I'm so glad you did that, so it's not lost. You've worked so hard and spent so much of your time gathering this information. We don't want to lose it again, right? And so we can carry on.
Yeah, well, a really good combination of things to get if you really want to do a deep study of Sedona is the DVD, but also to get the book, because there's a lot of information.
Oh, the book is amazing.
And one thing that you find a real detailed description of in the book is the Sedona grid.
Yes.
Sedona grid of ley lines and the vortexes here in Sedona. And so the book will tell you where these vortexes are and how to get to them. And it starts with the root chakra being Point Canyon, and it ends with the crown chakra being a place called Bell Rock. And these are two of the 4 major vortexes. And so the energy of Boyne Canyon is both the upflow and downflow vortex. So the energy is moving up and down in the Sedona vortex. And when it moves down, it moves through the Sedona spine to Bell Rock, and then Bell Rock is exclusively an upflow vortex. So once the energy gets to Bell Rock, it just moves right up, and it creates this kind of etheric geyser of incredible energy and also incredible electromagnetic energy. And in fact, this is one reason that there's more UFO sightings there at Bell Rock than pretty much any place else in Sedona, because they're actually the ETs take their crafts there to fuel up. It's a ET fueling station.
I love
They fuel
it.
up with the electromagnetic energies there.
Well, you show a beautiful picture of a pink Venusian ship there in your book. It's just really
That's
gorgeous.
right. Well, we have people that come from all over the world that feel connection to certain ET tribes or ET star people, ET from different dimensions and planets and star systems. And the woman that took that picture, she has a special connection to Venusians. And she also has connection to the Pleiadians. And one thing that I learned is that there is a connection, a special connection between the Pleiadians and Venusians. So if you have connection with one, you usually have connection to the other. And this is because the Sanat Kumara, who came here, he came here from the Pleiades, but he stopped over on Venus on the way here before coming here. And so one of his names is actually Lord of Venus.
Oh.
And so this is, you'll see pictures of him. He is of the white race with the blue eyes, the fair skin, the kind of the golden blonde hair. And so you find that same race on the Pleiades, but also on Venus too. Now, one thing that's interesting is that a lot of people that come here to Sedona, they have connection to Venus or the Pleiades or both. And one reason they feel like they're drawn here now is because, well, Hopi prophecy is that the ETs are returning.
Right. You discussed that in your book, the book Return of the Star People and King of the World.
That's right, yeah. And so if you go on to Hopi Reservation today, there's a place called Prophecy Rock. And the Prophecy Rock, through symbols, it tells you what's going to be coming, what's going to be happening in the future. Well, right next to Prophecy Rock is another rock that's got this extraterrestrial craft that's inscribed on the rock. And your guide, if you have a good one, he'll tell you that craft represents the extraterrestrials that were here before, the Kachinas that lived with the Hopi people and taught them. But it also represents those beings, those same beings that are going to be returning in the future. And according to the legend, they were supposed to start returning in the 70s. And all of a sudden in the 70s, the night sky was just totally full of ET craft, and it's virtually been that way ever since over the Hopi Reservation.
I would like to talk a little bit about when I had my experience. We're going to shift a little bit, but it is about an experience with in Boynton Canyon. Later, after I had the experience, it was in someone's book. I don't have it in front of me because I'm traveling, but it's a book on Sedona as well. But he called the entities that I met in 3D that came down off the mountain right in front of me, and had an experience with them, and they're called the Kakakas. Do you know much about them, the Kakaka beings? But he said they were beings.
Is that like Tom Dongo's work?
No, it's someone else's. I'm sorry, I'm on the road, so I'm like a little bit not in my normal space where I can pull out things.
I can't say that I'm familiar with them. I'm certainly familiar with the Anastasies.
Yeah, the Anastasies. This is different.
Yeah,
These are, I was told that they were the guardians of the land. They actually live in the earth there, and that they came before people, and that they were the guardians of that particular area. Does that sound? Have you
Well,
heard
if
of
that's
any?
the case, then, well, I know that a lot of the Lemurians that that came to Sedona and Boynton Canyon, and now they are the nature spirits. In fact, the Yavapai Indians, they talk about them as the Kakaka people.
That's probably it. Oh, can you say that again? What do they call it?
It's Kakaka,
Oh,
K-A-K-A-K,
yeah,
Kakaka.
kakaka. That's
That's what
it.
they call
That's it. I pronounced it wrong. I call it the kakakas, but I think I'm,
Uh-oh.
so you're calling it the
Yeah.
kakaka. All right, that's it.
Yeah, well,
Those
those are extraterrestrials. Yeah, that stay here.
those are the beings that I met. Those are the beings that I had experience with in the middle of the night one night in Boynton Canyon.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's where
Wow.
all of this led to you. So they brought me to you, Mark, okay?
Well, I should thank them, I guess.
No, I thank them. It's likewise, but it's where you go to seek. That would happen, like 10, 19, like 10 or 15 years ago. But I went back several times afterwards. But it's something that, like with you, where it's it's not it's interdimensional. It's where they bring it to you, and then if you're open enough to receive it and have it, then you get to understand it or have that experience, and then bring that into your beingness, right? So they get the download. You get a download that you get to then carry with you.
Well, a lot of the tribes in the Southwest, they during the last great flood, which was the time of the flood of Atlantis, the whole Southwest was covered with water at that time, and a lot of them went inside the earth. A lot of Native American tribes, in fact, most of them did, in order to survive. And this is at least partly where they made the ET connection, because it had been the ETs that had made this inner civilization, and they lived with them there. And the Hopis talk about living with the ant people, but the ant people look just like graves. You see the images of them, and so do the Kakaka, actually.
The kakaka,
And
I
so
love.
the same with the Yavapai. They say that they started in the inner earth in this cycle, and they floated when the surface of the earth became totally covered with water. The water started seeping into the earth where they were, and so they were about to get drowned there as well. And so they made a canoe, and they put the young Yavapai girl in the canoe, and as the inner earth filled up, she floated to the surface of the earth, and she came out a place today that's called Montezuma as well. And then since the surface of the earth was covered with water, she kept going, and you know where she ended up? It was Boynton Canyon. And so that is the beginning of the Yavapai's. It's their Garden of Eden for this cycle of time that we're in now, that began with the end of that planetary deluge. And so the Sedona is a Garden of Eden. And it's also where you have the Hopis. A lot of Hopis came here directly from the inner earth. A lot of Zunis did, Navajo. A lot of them came here. So it really was a Garden of Eden at the beginning of, at the start of the cycle we're in now.
It's interesting, because for a long time, when I built a relationship with the earth, and one of the places that I do go is a circular pool. It's a beautiful aqua colored circular pool. And so now I'm thinking maybe that's Montezuma as well that I've been going to on the inner.
Oh, I would definitely say that's a possibility. I would, if I was you, the next time I'm in the area, definitely check it out. It's a very powerful vortex there. It's a very, very sacred place, and it's totally interdimensional. It can take you on a shamanic journey to who knows where. I mean, it can take you on a shamanic journey definitely into the inner earth. if that's where you want to go.
Yeah, well, it was, I went there for healing. It's kind of like it's a place that I go so I can be healed there and kind of like put back together and pumped up and given vitality and life breath and, spunk and kaputska and all of those things. So then when I come back on the earth plane in the body, I can deal, and not be taken off my center as easily.
And refreshed and renewed.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
Well, one I wanted to mention, we have, you and I, we have a strong connection to Boynton Canyon. There's so many other people. In fact, I've actually, at the last part of my book, Sedona to the Star People, I do a lot of interviews with people that living here in Sedona now, and so many of their best, most amazing experiences happen in Boynton Canyon.
Huh.
And one thing I realize is that, I've come to realize is that Boynton Canyon, one reason it's so special is it's really the exact center of this gigantic Sedona vortex. It's like about 50 miles in diameter. And, you can feel it all the way from Cottonwood up to Flagstaff. It's a huge, huge vortex, and that is the very center. So, of course, it's going to have some of the strongest, if not the strongest, energies there. And it's the strongest portals. There's so many portals that can take you into other dimensions, other worlds there. And I've been through a few, so I had that experience.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the return of the Star People. How, that's your last chapter. That's, I think, my favorite chapter.
Well, that's, it's not just only the Hopis, but a lot of the other Native American tribes, certainly the Zuni, Yavapai, they're talking about that. And because you have the same being in all these different traditions, this Sanakamarao, Masao, whatever, and all these different traditions, you also have prophecies of the return, and there's other different traditions too, like the Djedhi people. They have the tradition that there's also going to be the return of the Star People. And they're talking like, 11,000 ships. And right now they're saying that there's going to be a major change around 2025. And so that could potentially be it. Because what they're foreseeing is moving into a time period where, once again, we are all aware of this King of the World again. We acknowledge his presence, and we finally know what the Peacock Angel truly is, and so that will be the beginning of a time period where the murders and the genocide against the Djedhis will come to an end, finally. But as I was saying, a lot of people are coming into Sedona. They feel like the Pleiadians. A lot of the Kachinas that were here before. There's no doubt that there was Pleiadians. In fact, Masao was Sanakama was Pleiadian, and when you go to Hopi Reservation and you see that image of the spaceship, they say, well, that represents the ETs that came. Some will say, well, those are the ETs that came from the Pleiades. And some will say, no, those are the ETs that came from Venus. But now it looks like they're the same. So it looks like those two, especially the Pleiadians, the Venusians, will be arriving here. As to the other ones, I don't really know, because I don't really have that special connection to those other star people, like I do with the Pleiadians. But most people are going to have some connection to the Pleiadians. Most of us came through a stargate into this local galaxy through the Pleiades. We came from a higher frequency universe, which the Gnostics call the Pleroma. And this is why we have such karma with these Pleiadians, because as we came into this galaxy, in order to adjust to the energies, the frequencies of this physical universe, we had to spend time kind of, getting adjusted to it.
Right,
And we
it's
did
so
have to play it.
dense.
Huh?
It's so dense here.
Yeah.
It's
sure
denser
is.
and it's slower.
Yeah, very. And so anyway, we established a lot of karmic connections with the Pleiadians when we were there. So we're like their brothers and sisters. In fact, the Mayans, they said that our sun is the 8th star of the Pleiades. So we're actually one of the stars of the Pleiades
Oh,
itself.
I've never heard that before.
Which is another reason we have these strong karmic connections.
That's beautiful. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
That's gorgeous. That's wonderful.
And this is why in around the time of Halloween, they say that all the souls that had died the previous year, they come out of their tombs, and that's where the trick or treat came in, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you give them a treat or they'll trick you. You know, these phantoms that are running around, you know, the surface of the earth. But you know, when Halloween's over, then they rise up and they go home, they say. And because that's the night when the Pleiades are directly overhead. And so they rise right up to the Pleiades and go home.
Huh.
And some stay in the Pleiades, but some keep going through the portal that leads to the higher universe called the Pleroma. And this is means the fullness of God. This is where the Gnostics went. The Gnostics learned how to astral travel so they could go home while they're still alive in the body. They learned how to do that. And they would go to the Pleiades and then up to the Pleroma from there. But so for many of us, that, you know, for most of us actually, I would say that is really our home, and those are really our people, and that's why they keep coming here to enlighten us, and that's why our first savior was Sanat Kumar from the Pleiades, and brought this Gnostic alchemical path. So it'll definitely be a lot of Pleiadians, I think, that will be returning, a lot of Venusians, and others I can't really speak to. Maybe you can, because I know you talk to a lot of people who have EP experiences, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, those are my two big ones as well. It's funny that you bring those two up, because those are the two that I have the most alignment with, I think, in some ways. But I think for me, I'm on a ship that just cruises all over, and I just don't really belong anywhere. I'm kind of a bohemian. You know, I think that planet needs a little help. Let's go down there for a while and then, you know, mix things up and get things all together, and then come back up and then cruise somewhere else to the next adventure in a way. That's how I see it. So do you think that you have a body that's up, let's say, in the Pleiades, or in that's Venusian, and that it's a duplicate here, or that most of your energy is in your body here that you know of, and you have some somewhere else? How what's your scope on that?
Well, all I can say is it's a possibility. I can't say that I've had a direct experience of it, but it's a possibility. I don't know. For whatever reason, I just haven't become aware of it if it is there.
Well, you definitely have that awareness when you sit in Sedona and look at those rocks, and then it just shows up as these beautiful temples. I mean, it's such a reveal to you. So your heart must be in the right place for that to happen, Mark, you know?
But I think we're all here to do some kind of a mission, a lot of us, to prepare the way for a new era, which I believe is coming. And this is what I'm here to do, and you're here to do what you're here to do.
Yeah. Well, and you made the alignment with the different groups that weren't even aware of each other. I think that's really, really beautiful. So it's like, okay, so let's talk about where would you like to go from here? I do have another question. About the spiral, you talk a little bit in your book about this spiral symbol. I would love for you to talk a little bit about the spiral symbol. When I had my NDE, when I came back, I drew spirals forever. actually a double spiral, one going one way, one going the other way. And I drew it I still draw it without even thinking about it. And so I noticed in your book you talked briefly about spiral, sacred geometry. So
Yeah, I did write a book called Sacred Geometry and the Creation of the Universe.
yes,
I think you're referring to that.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So yes.
Well, what I try to show in the book, through a lot of nice big pictures and a lot of nice big print, because I know that if people are like me, when you hear the word mathematics or geometry, it's intimidating. And I think that because of that, people are shy away a bit from sacred geometry. So I've tried to make it as simple and as easy as possible to follow along.
Mm-hmm.
And what I discovered is that the different sacred geometrical forms, there's a series of them, right? And that series corresponds to the stages of creation in the universe. And that's one of the best ways, I think, to understand what these sacred geometric forms represent. But one thing I show is that in all traditions, they talk about the very beginning as the cosmic ocean of nothingness, of consciousness, from which emerges energy, and that starts the whole ball of wax moving, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how does that energy, what form does that energy take? It takes the form of a spiral.
Huh.
And so everything that then is created in the universe has that stamp of the spiral on it. So the spiral is essentially the original form of God.
Huh.
If you can say that we are made in the image of God, we are made according to the spiral. I mean, obviously, there's certain ways it's obvious, like the DNA, but also that we are our physical bodies are made according to the golden proportion, which is the proportion behind the spiral. It's 1.61. So if you just take a finger and a digit, if you take a top digit and then you multiply 1.61, you get this, and then this, and then this, and then this. Not only our bodies, but everything, the entire universe is based on the spiral. And so this is what the Hindus say, is that the whole universe, the whole cycle of the universe, it starts with the unraveling of the primal serpent, right? Mm-hmm. And then the end of it is the recoiling of the primal serpent, and that's the end of it. So it's the unraveling of the spiral, and then it's the recoiling of the spiral at the end. And this is why all the ancients said the same thing. The universe is created by a serpent, a snake, or a dragon. They're talking about the spiral.
Right.
So I mean, if you understand the spiral, you understand the main form that's behind all the other forms, the first and the most important form in the whole entire universe. And the spiral is based on the division that you get when you divide 666 into 1080, which is a numerological value of the female male. So it's like the male impregnating the female are coming together, the polarities coming together to give birth to life. It's a spiral. It's all right there. It's very, very simple to understand. And so you out there in the Facebook world, be happy to know you don't need to be intimidated about sacred geometry anymore. I've made it very, very simple, and I've given you a lot of beautiful, nice big pictures to look to understand it all. So is that what you're getting at? You wanted to know about that?
Exactly. And I think, I'm working in with the Serpent Mound, going to the Serpent Mound too. That's where I'm going. So it's fun to have a show, because then I get to get some answers myself, as I'm a seeker of the great mysteries myself, and so it's wonderful to have you that have put so much work into that. So yay! I've never had it explained like that, and it all fits. It just fits. Because when I
But
did have
so we are basically the image of the primal serpent, right? And our journey is to develop the powers and the wisdom of that primal serpent, because that primal serpent is the first form of God. Okay, and it's through that first form that God then creates the universe, and that first form is full of the power and the wisdom. And so we are given a form, a microcosmic form of the spiral that's the base of our human body. And the next thing we do is we develop the wisdom and power of the serpent. And this is why all the ancient masters around the planet were all named serpents and dragons, all of them. All pre-Christian civilizations, the enlightened masters were serpent and dragons, the heads of the mystery school were serpent and dragons, the priest kings were all serpent and dragons. So, but there's one more step after that, though. Okay. So you usually get your kundalini activated. So that's the next step in our evolution. We need to get that activated. Once that's activated, then we acquire these incredible powers and abilities and wisdom. But as I said, there's one more step, and that is to transcend then the serpent we become, to transcend that, to become that cosmic ocean of consciousness that existed before the primal serpent was even existed, to unite with that. And that is the end of our journey. And at that point, we move into what's called Turiya, the fourth state of consciousness. And it's in that state that you have the Gnostic revelation that I am God, I am everything. You know that you exist as every creature, every life form in this universe.
Yeah.
That's you, and you know you created this universe. You know you exist for eternity. All these revelations come to you, and at that point, you are what I call the dragon master, because you're master of that primal serpent. And that's the last point you want to get to, and then you're existing in this transcendental state where you were not affected at all by the physical world at all. You're in a whole different realm that's an eternal realm. You're eternally experiencing this, what they call Satchidananda, being consciousness and bliss. You're there for eternity. And this is what we try to teach you in the Path of Dragon Mystery School. Teach you how to develop yourself as the dragon, but finally to become what I call the dragon master. And so much of what I'm telling you now is actually contained in one of my books called the Initiate's Guide to the Path of the Dragon.
I'll put that in the Facebook they can all go on to Amazon.com. Is that the best way to get your books too? Is it on Amazon, or to go to your website?
You can also get them from me at sevenreorder.com.
Okay.
The first book I wrote was The Turn of the Serpents of Wisdom, and that talks about all these different serpent kingdoms and serpent masters all around the planet, and how they started on Lemurian, Atlantis, how they started with the extraterrestrials and so forth, and the dragon kingdoms that they created, and the different kinds of dragon or alchemical paths that they taught. They were the pyramid builders, because there's not a better structure that generates the alchemical force. And this is where they went inside and did their initiations in there. So this was like the homes of the dragon, of the serpent. So they were the megalithic builders, the pyramid builders, all over the world. And I write a lot about them in both the Initiate's Guide and also the Serpents of Wisdom. They created a worldwide dragon culture, which you probably haven't heard too much about.
I have not.
Last thing I knew, they weren't teaching in the school. So, but who knows in the future?
Right, right.
Because that's legit. That was a legitimate, culture, worldwide culture, and it's in all the histories, all the documented histories and civilizations all over the world. They know about it. They talk about it. The time when the great masters with the serpent. serpent master. So all that is there in Transserpentism, and the Path of the Dragon also tells a lot of that same story, but also half the book is exactly what you can do yourself in order to awaken the Kundalini energies, to develop what I call the dragon body of the chakras and the nadis, to develop these kind of supernatural powers, and to ultimately to become the dragon master, to transcend into that fourth state of consciousness, the Turiya consciousness, and become the dragon master.
Great. Wow, I've touched on a lot of the things that you're talking about in my path, but I haven't gone to some of the depth that you have in the research, which is just extraordinary. And one of your books that we're going to just talk about your books. This wasn't quite what we had planned, but you have such an immense volume of wisdom to share. One of my first things going on the path was learning about the Green Man, and you have a book all about the Green Man as well. And
that's right. Yeah, they're all kind of interconnected. Because,
they are. They seem to be.
Because I talked about this king of the world. I talked about, for example, the Peacock Angel. Mm-hmm. When he landed here, he spread his plumes around the planet, and they crystallized to become all the forms of nature. So he is the original Green Man. So the Green Man and the ancient king of the world are one and the same. And their ancient legends kind of got interconnected, because one of the most ancient of the nature religion legends is that the Earth Mother gave birth to her son every year, the Green Man, as all the forms of nature. And in that legend, he matures very quickly, and he actually becomes the lover of his own mother. Mm-hmm. And so they had incest back then too. So anyway, he also, as that legend evolved, he also became not only the Green Man, but also the king of the world, which he governed for his mother, and also the head of the mystery schools, or the original teacher of the Gnostic alchemical path, and also he became the serpent on the tree, which the Gnostics referred to as the first instructor that taught the Gnostic alchemical path. So all these kind of legends, ancient legends, kind of intertwine, and so the Green Man is simply another name for this king of the world I've been telling you about, that's known about all around the planet. It's just a very, very ancient name for him, but it's just another name for him.
Yeah, it's. I know when I get into something, I see it everywhere. It's like, when you're studying about, let's say the Green Man, you just see him everywhere where you at least expect it. Like when you buy a new car, you see all your cars everywhere. I kind of find that when I'm focusing on something like Sedona and the Star People, and then I'm going to the Serpent Mound, and it's this whole, it's out there for you. The doors are there, the path is there. It's up to you to take the steps there, right? So.
Yeah, that's right. And if you're open to it, and if it's in your destiny, then those experiences will come to you. You don't need to even go looking for them; they'll come to you. Mm-hmm. They'll be in pursuit of you.
That's true.
And that's happened to me. When I went going around the planet, there was always this being, that was kind of there, hanging out, waiting until I was ready to do those experiences.
And when did you have the biggest experience of that? Where were you?
Well, this, it was probably a few different times. I mean, certainly having when I see peacocks all around me, I know that's him. Right. And I've also, seen more human images of him here and there, and visions and so forth. But he has so many different forms. He doesn't just show up as one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even Sanat Kumara, if you go to his main place in Sri Lanka, they'll tell you, well, you know, this guy he still keeps coming around. You know, we have experiences of him. And I said, well, what does he come as? And I said, well, he can come as a snake. Sometimes he'll come as a dog, especially if people get lost in the jungles there. He will come and guide them out of the jungles. He also comes as a peacock, or he'll come as a young boy that rides a peacock, or he comes as a madman. You just never know. He's got all these different forms that he shows up. And in fact, you know what's interesting is the Djedhis themselves say that the peacock angel. Hello?
Yes.
Oh, you still see me?
Yes.
Oh, because the image is gone from my computer. Okay. All right, good.
Oh. Oh, I think we might have lost him for a moment. Mark, where are you? I think we lost him. Okay, everyone. So we have lost Mark for some reason. Okay. So let's see. How are we going to do this? Let's see. So I'll see if I can call him back. We'll see if we can get him back. Add to call. Oh, what happened with that? Okay, add to call. Mark Pinkham. Just hold on there, everybody. Pinkham. Okay, where are you, Mark? There you are. Let's add you. And let's see if we can get you back. Hello, Mark. Hello, Mark. Okay. So I think we have lost Mark. And we're about 9 minutes left in the show. So I'm calling, but not getting any kind of reaction. So I would like to encourage all of you to read his books. They're amazing. We didn't get to the truth behind the Christ myth, and also his book, The Return of the Serpents of Wisdom. These are all beautiful books by Mark Amaru, Amaru, Pinkham. That's Mark Amaru, Amaru, Pinkham. The book that I'm just excited about is Sedona, City of the Star People, Court of the King of the World. And if you're going to go to Sedona, you've got to take his book. His lovely wife messaged us also the book An Initiate's Guide to the Path of the Dragon, and From the Green Man to Jesus, the origin and evolution of the Christ myth. And his wife did leave a beautiful message that if you're going to buy his books, if you could go ahead and go directly to Mark's direct his page. His webpage is 7rayorder.com. That's SEVENRAYORDER.com. Okay, so that's Mark. Oh, are you back? You're back,
yeah.
Mark. You're back. That's fantastic. Yeah, we just did a little.
One of my supernatural powers. I can just pop in and out anytime I want.
I guess so. You're writing a book about that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Initiate's Guide, right there.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I just explained to everyone all of your books, your titles that you have, and that the best way for them to order is actually to go directly to your site, which is 7ray let me see, making sure I'm saying 7rayorder.com. So
Right.
everyone go
And
to,
also their other website is
Okay.
the website of our Sacred Journey company that we
oh yes,
lead
let's talk about
tours
that.
around the world, sacredsitesjourneys.com.
Okay.
And please take a look at that. We've got a tour in September. We're actually going to Mount Kailash.
Oh, you are? Oh man,
Yeah,
I'd love
and
to
we're going to
do
the
that.
severe seventh chakra, and that's really
Oh,
I consider one of the courts of this Sanakama, this King of the World, and so I'm pretty excited about that. And you get all kinds of blessings when you walk around the base of Mount Kailash, and it's very beneficial for spiritual activation and opening up the psychic channels, master channels. So we're going there in September. We're going, let's see, to Ireland in October.
oh, I
and
love
then,
Ireland.
And then, oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And then we're going to Egypt in November. So we have a
Yes.
full schedule in the fall, and we have plenty of room in all those tours. So if you were interested, please check out our
Yeah.
website. And I doubt I'll be going back to Kailash again. And so this is really a really big opportunity for those of you that have wanted to go or are now getting the feeling right now that I want to go. I need to go.
Yeah, that would be great. And we also are taking a trip to Egypt, a tour in February of 2021. So with Steve Myers and I, we're taking a group. So you have to go. People don't buy the house. Take the journey. Take the trip. Because it's all
Absolutely.
about experience. It's all about having some experiences and going to these sacred sites. You get to go back and gather so much information about yourself and why you're here and what you're doing here and the past and the future there. So,
And what I found out is that you don't want to wait very long if you want to go to a sacred site or a sacred temple, because every year they tend to close off parts of those sites and those temples, and it makes it harder and harder for you to see them. And it's getting to the point where some of these sites, half their area is just closed down. You can't even visit it anymore. So you don't wait if you want to go, because it might be totally closed down by the time you're ready. So go now.
That's so true. I know when I first started going to Stonehenge way back in the day, there was no fence around it. You just go up to it, right? And I agree with you. Many of the sites now have these huge fences and all this stuff to keep the people out. And there are sacred sites, and our history, our ancestors built those sites for us.
Yeah. No, when we first started going to Machu Picchu in Peru, you could go in there all night long. You can't do that anymore. You could go in there and walk and climb all over everything. And now they've got ropes every place.
Yeah.
And you can't hardly do anything anymore. And if they think you're meditating, well, that's the worst thing you could be doing. They'll let you know. I mean, you can kick out of there if they see you with your eyes closed.
Right.
I mean, it's really getting serious.
Yeah. So please check out Mark's sites, his website, sacredsitesjourneys.com. That's SACREDSITES journeys, JOURNEYS.com. Sacredsitesjourneys.com. Check it out. Go on his trips. I mean, it looks marvelous. And read all of your books and go to your website, 7rays.
7rayorder.com.
7rayorder.com. That's 7rayorder.com, and promote your local author or your and support him. He's worked hard and they could use it. All of us could use it, right? So thank you, Mark, for coming on the show. I really, really appreciate your time and your energy and your wisdom that you shared with us here today. You've inspired me. I have the summer off. I don't know where I'm going to be going or exactly what I'm going to be doing after the Serpent Mound. I'll be speaking. My next engagement isn't until the Sasquatch conference in September. So maybe I should swing by Sedona. That would be fun.
Okay. Well, I'm not going anyplace, so
Okay, I'd love to
see you
meet
there.
your wife and go to Boynton Canyon. I wonder what would happen with us there, you know?
Well, thanks so much for having me on, Barbara, and have a incredible journey to Serpent Mound. I am sure you will. That's one place that I haven't been to yet and want to get to. So pay my respects to the great serpent there, if you will, and tell him I'll be coming along one of these days.
All right, I will. Thank you. And to all of our listeners, I will be putting a link in to where you can go to the Serpent Mound, the world meetup for the Serpent Mound World Peace Summit, and that's through Terry Rivera. So I'll put a link in after the show today to the Serpent Mound. And next week's show, we will be coming live from the Serpent Mound. And I don't know who I'm going to have on my show. I'm going to just pick up some of those amazing speakers that are there, and we're going to bring them onto the show, a few of them, and we're just going to have a really good time. And we're going to be talking about their work for peace in the world. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And I'll see you. Maybe I'll see you on the road if you're on the way to. We're going to go to Ohio by way of Idaho. So if there's things that I should see or experience, let me know. Put it on my contact here at Facebook. That's Barbara Jean Lindsey at Facebook. And then I have a page also. It's barbarajeanlindsey.com. And check out my books and check out my tours. And this is kind of what we do, you know. It's what I came here to do, and I love traveling and meeting people and talking about spirit and all things esoteric, shall we say. So thanks again. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
And we'll talk maybe sooner than later, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good night, everybody. Thanks again. See you next week. Okay, let me see if I can find that really quick. Okay, we're gonna see if I can find the Serpent Mound information and put that in the link here for you. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm so excited about the road trip. I'm just really thrilled about it. So let's see if we can find Serpent Mound. Is that how we would find it? Yes, Peace Summit. Here we are. Serpent Mound Star Knowledge Peace Summit. We are peace. That's what we're going to find right now. And I'll give you the link for it. And I'll be talking on Saturday. That Saturday, I think it's the 20th at 4:45. So here it is. Oh, wait, I think I went to the wrong one. Oops. So we're going to go to the next one back because it's 2021. So go to the newest, give you the latest information. I'll give you last year's information. Okay, it'll be Saturday, June 20th through the 21st. And so here we go. And I'll give you that link right now. It's coming up. It's an event, Peace Pole, Mitchell Hedges, Crystal Skull, Solstice Peace Summit. Oh, I'm so excited. Even saying it makes me excited. So edit, copy, and I'll put that in the link here. And wow, wasn't Mark's like, he's an amazing man. Wow, edit, paste. So here's the link for the Serpent Mound Summit. Please check it out. Doesn't look like that's what it is though, but that is what it is. It's an event, the Serpent Mound event, along with the Crystal Skull. So thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next week live from Ohio. I'm doing my road trip. You can leave messages here. Hi, Daniel. Nice to see you. Wow, wow. So I love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'm excited. I haven't done a road trip. I've sold all my stuff. Not sold it, but packed it away. I'm living out of the suitcase for the next 3 months, and we'll see where Spirit leads me. So I'll see you live on the Serpent Mound in Ohio. Please check out this Facebook event. It's really, really cool. Oh, there it is. Someone put it up for me. Thank you. And you can see it, since you can't go there, you can see it live, their live stream broadcast here on Facebook. Okay, so you can go to Facebook this weekend, Friday, I think Saturday and Sunday. I'll be speaking Saturday at 4:45, but come and watch the whole thing and be a part of it. Bring your energy to this beautiful Peace Pole Mitchell Hedges Crystal Skull Solstice Peace Summit. Starts June 20th at 10 a.m. It's an online event. So check it out, okay? All right, thank you everyone, and we'll call this the end of the show, and we'll see you next week. Take care.